Frizzalone, Fritz, Mayor, Moran, Eustace, Rice, Chiminello, Winfrey, Freitag. You have a quorum, and we also have Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. Jim, can you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No approval of minutes. Old business. Continued discussion of the RFQ for, actually, you know, before we start this meeting, I just wanted to, I don't want what happened at last meeting to occur again. I don't want to have another meeting about Robert Rules of Order, but, you know, I want everyone to be respectful at this meeting. I don't care how anyone else runs their own meetings, but at my meeting, we're going to do the Robert Rules of Order, and how that goes is I run the meeting, I give Jackie the floor. Jackie has the floor, she's done, it comes back to me. I give it to Gretchen. Gretchen has it, it comes back to me. I don't want cross-talking, whether it's to other committee members or cross-talking if we recognize people from the audience. I just want this to be orderly, respectful, and to get what we need to get done here. So I just want to say that off the bat. In regards, now we have old business back to discussion, continued discussion on the RFQ for the owner's rep. I asked everyone to, you know, do their own research. I've done a little bit of mine, but I'd like to continue to do some more research on this. I know we have asked our construction managers, our architects, people to come to our meetings that are working on our current projects. When they have something to report to us, we are now having 2 meetings. We're the oversight committee here. So, and then Dave has been reporting to us. I think at this point, and this is just my position, again, it's still up for discussion, is that I think we're doing a fine job with the Sheriff's Department. I think it's a smaller magnitude rather than the courthouse. I'm not in a position to move forward on an owner's rep for the Sheriff's facility, and I don't think we're there yet on the courthouse.
Start all over.
Yeah. Again, I can leave it on here, but I think at this point, I think it's moved, and I'd like to table it. Does anyone have any other discussion or on that issue?
That's all I'm going to say.
What did you?
I agree.
Okay. Jim.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with you on the sheriff's facility, but even though I do think we need to formalize some things. I mean, no one has ever asked the executive's office to have oversight of this, and even though I think Dave Tech has played a role, he doesn't answer to the county board committee that really has the oversight. He takes direction from the county executive's office. And there has been some instances that I find a little bit concerning in attending meetings, some interactions between the consultants that I do think were not in the best interest of the county board. And I'm not going to go into those because I don't want to put a negative, but I'd be more than happy to discuss it with any member of this committee, probably privately. This is not a subject I don't think that necessarily would be helpful right now to talk about. But there has been some issues. And a lot of it has to do with who does Dave take direction. And it can be as simple as we say we need you to attend a meeting, Dave, on our behalf, and for whatever reason, the executive's office directs him not to attend. And those kind of issues I think are real. So So I think we have to have, if Dave Tech is going to represent the county board in these matters, then I think we need to have a clear understanding that Dave will have to take some direction from this committee. So, you know, and if we can work that out, I'm on board with the sheriff's facility. Now, I have to tell you, the courthouse, I don't think, I seriously doubt if Dave has the qualifications to have oversight of a courthouse of this nature. And the reason I say that, very few do. I mean, there's not that many vertical courthouses built. People have experience in those areas. So with the courthouse, I do think you need to have some additional expertise to maybe have some oversight. Now really the CM is, construction manager is building the building. Somebody who's going to have say a rep, owner's rep. I don't know how much additional that gives you, but you really have to then establish the relationship. And I think this is also the case with the courthouse. You have to really establish a relationship between the design team, the construction managers, and this board. And if you establish that relationship correctly, then everybody understands kind of what their roles are. In which case, I don't think you need another person to come in. I think someone from this committee could attend weekly construction meetings along with Dave. And those are really kind of internal progress reports where they may even talk about some concerns they may have. But it gives us a presence there. And maybe there's a couple of us on this committee that we can designate to do that. I would probably have the time to do it. I say I'm retired, but I am the township supervisor, and that is a full-time job. There's no part-time jobs. But so I think it really comes down to establishing the appropriate relationships between, say, the executive's office, the CM, and the design team and the county board. And if that's done correctly, I don't think you need to bring another person in. So that's kind of my view. And you'll wind up with a really good product, I think, in the end, a really good project in the end. So.
And I think, I've enjoyed working with Dave, and I don't know what I do without him, so I'm happy with what you've done. I'm happy with our committee, that we've all been very involved and done our research. We've increased these meetings to 2 a month. We're having the people, our construction manager and architect report to us. We've had meetings outside of the committee, and when the construction meeting, the weekly meetings, if they start occurring, I welcome any of us, to attend. I prefer they're in the afternoon or before 9 o'clock, but I know it doesn't have to be one person or whatever. Somebody from this committee can attend the weekly meetings. I think we've all done a good job, and I think we should continue that. If it's not broke, why fix it? So, Herb.
I'll direct my comment to you, Madam Chair. It is my understanding, correct me if I am wrong, that Mr. Tack does report to this capital committee and or take marching orders, for lack of a better term, from this committee. Is that correct?
I think he has.
I don't think that's correct. No, I know nothing that's correct. I think he reports to this committee, but I think he takes direction. We may ask him to do something, but ultimately his direction comes from the county executive's office. So if you direct in one way and the executive office directs in another way, which way do you think he's? I'm just saying, I don't think that's the case.
Okay, but Madam Chair, my question is, Dave Tack is mandated to attend these committee meetings, and whatever marching orders we give him, he does, or is required to carry out those request from this committee. Is that so?
I believe so. And at the same time, he works for the executive. So
Oh, I
there's marching
understand
orders
that.
there
I
too.
understand
So at this point, I think, I don't think we need to continue this conversation. I think we're all in agreement that we're fine with our committee being the oversight, that Dave will continue to do his job, and we'll continue to work with him in the weekly meetings as more of these construction meetings go forward. So I don't think there's any needed discussion on this. I think we're okay. Ms. Winfrey?
Just a thought, and I understand that the two projects are separate, the courthouse being separate and the contract we have for that is set up differently than the one for the sheriff's facility, so I have no problem with unjoining those, if that's even a word. And I asked Mary Tatro to see if it's possible for us to do a temporary work agreement with Dave Tack, which allows us to specify what we want done and to arrange for marching orders as a way of making this committee more comfortable and being clear about who reports to whom and what needs to be done. Is that a possibility?
Well, I think that's a discussion you have to have with the county executive from a legal perspective. Certainly you
Can do that, which I think then allows us to clarify and make clean lines about who's reporting to whom and what needs to get done. So I would offer that as a possibility.
Okay. And I saw your email, thank you. Okay, move on to,
Do you need one at the table?
yeah, actually,
I would just remove.
just remove it.
Okay, just remove.
Do I need a motion for that? Okay. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Update on the Laraway facility construction, Leopardo and DLR. And Dave, you want to come up here? I know. Yesterday was our first pre-bid meeting. I was happy to attend for just a minute. I'm excited to see the attendance on that, and really excited that this is pretty.
Good morning, David. I love you.
You got the state attorney's here. So you better-
I got the hard chair.
You got the state attorney's here.
Always, you have to hurt here.
I think you grabbed that chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you, thank you, Madam Chair and esteemed members of the committee. Today, we have both representation from the architect of record and our construction manager here today to discuss the status of the sheriff's project. We approached in a key milestone yesterday, and rather than having me talk about it, I'd like to let our consultants give us a little bit of an update on both. And we could probably start with design and then talk about the construction. And I'm sorry, this is Kevin Curran, okay? He is the lead architect with the DLR group. And then this is Nicole McElroy. She is the lead project manager with Leopardo Group. So.
It's always nice to meet the people who really do the work.
That's right, that's right.
Thank you. As Dave said, we have completed 100% design and development documents, which is also the GMP, and those were issued on July 6th. Those are currently being priced. Bid package 1 was also completed and released to bidders on July 14th. Yesterday there was a pre-bid meeting which Nicole attended, and that was the pre-bid workshop that occurred yesterday. Bid package 1 is due for bidders on August 3rd, and site work is scheduled to begin in mid-September. And then we have bid package 2, which we are currently working on, and that encompasses the building enclosure, as well as mechanical systems. And then bid package 3 is also being completed, and that will include all of the interior finishes for the project.
Number 1, that was structural.
Bid package 1 is civil site work, structure, Also included in that is the elevators and the landscape, as well as the emergency generators.
Yeah, plan.
So what we did was, currently the county is not offering any incentives if you're a local participant. However, it was stressed that they look at the bidding documents relative to what the categories are, and there's qualifications for certain tiers. And it was suggested that if for whatever reason you don't feel you can meet those qualifications, that you try to partner with someone so that you can get maybe a little portion of it and kind of go hand in hand. So that's kind of how we stress the local participation and really kind of stress looking at it and seeing what you can do as a partnership. We'll do the same thing for bid package 2 and 3. So the exact same type of pre-bid workshop will actually occur. But we did talk about 2 and 3, so anyone who was there for 2 and 3, we let them know, 1, we're going to be doing this meeting again, but 2, look at when these documents are going to be coming out and start thinking about that partnership now ahead of time and look at those forms. So that was kind of the stance we took on local participation.
Denise?
Are we gonna do that, excuse me, I'm sorry. Are we gonna do that outreach, should we do an outreach program, is this specifically outside of pre-bid conference? Should we perhaps have a separate outreach where we can just get those smaller contractors, minority contractors, and talk to them separately on how best to participate?
Well, we had gone back and forth about that, and because there's, the county's not offering any incentives, there's not much outreach to do besides what we've done. We've sent it out a month, I want to say a month ahead of time, so it's on the website, and people can go to it at any point. We've sent out, FYI, this is coming out. We've kind of done everything as much as we can ahead of time. The only thing we could do is if there's, a handful of parties that are locally, we could reach out to them, but barring that, most of the time your local participation comes from that incentive.
Denise?
2 things. One is, do you have a sense of where the people were from, that 50 or so people who showed up regionally, where they were from?
I don't, but it would be very easy for me to look to see who those people are and where they're from, and that would be very easy, and I can have that update next time, and we can start to do that too. We can do that as just a general, a lot of times with local participation, it doesn't, there's no incentive, but you can still say it's highly encouraged, and we can create a tally the entire project, because it's not even just the group, right? It's even if they have local participants that are fabricators or installers, and so you can at least get an update on percentages and, hey, this is who we have at this time, and at least that can be out in the paper and things like that, if that helps just as a group.
And the other thing is, what kinds of incentives are typically offered to encourage local people?
A lot of times it's a discount in their bids. It's a certain percentage that they offer. Most of the time is what I typically see, but you can offer any types of incentive that you want, but that's usually what I see.
I had said earlier I was able to attend just for a little bit the meeting yesterday, and I know they signed in, so we do have a list of the people that attended, and just from my own observations, I did see a lot of local labor there, so I was really happy. So everyone seemed pretty positive and excited.
A lot of local firms represented yesterday.
Yes.
That was my question Denise asked about the incentives, so I'm
All right, anything else? All right, thank you guys. Next, update on the Judical Center delivery teams. I know Jason Breyer had a conflict, but we have Kobe here.
Morning.
Morning. Dave, you want to start this?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that as you mentioned, Jason apologizes that he was unable to attend this morning. He's been very, very busy lately on this project. With me today, Tom Leonard, and Tim Kiefer from, Tom Leonard from Gilbane Building Company, and Tim Kiefer from Farnsworth Group, our commissioning agent, have joined us today. A lot has been done behind the scenes in terms of trying to finalize the program, but at the same time, move the project forward with respect to schematic design. And having said that, I'd like to turn it over, and you don't want to hear from me. I much prefer, I'm sure, to hear from a new voice on this project. Tom Leonard, who's been involved, both gentlemen here today have been involved every step of the way. So we're gonna let them provide the update.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. After the meeting 2 weeks ago, I think we got some very firm direction on the total project cost, total project budget of $195 million for the courthouse. That's what we're working to with, as well as.
Working to or working under?
We're working under. To that with White and Farnsworth. There have been several more programming meetings since that time with the user groups, going along with the judge, the judiciary guys. Gilbane has been evaluating differences in cost. Now I think we've got the project down to probably something like 370,000, 368,000 square feet, which is where we need to be under that number. I think that yields about 26 courtrooms. We've been evaluating the basement, whether or not central holding can go in the basement as we originally thought. We're doing cost scenarios, then our run that would be a mezzanine. Dave had just provided the geotech report from the exploration that they did 2 weeks ago, and we're evaluating that now with the type of rock that's under there, whether it's real fractured or whether it's good bedrock, trying to see where that central holding can go cost-wise. We've got some pricing on that. We've turned that over so we can, I think, make a decision on that here shortly as to where central holding needs to go. I know White is tracking now with their schematic design. We've been costing also as a concrete post-tensioned or also structural steel. So that's also something we've given cost information to White and to Dave, and we discussed that at meetings that we had with those guys last week. So we're tracking still toward the end of August, I think. White is for the issuance of the SDs, at which time then Gilbane will do our SD estimate. I know that we're going to talk about how that gets presented, who sees that, who has to look at that, and how that gets approved, and going forward then into PD. So right now we're just trying to get everything now put together now that we've got our good specific direction going forward, and produce our SD documents so that we can get the first real meaningful estimate done sometime 1st of September.
Tom, can you explain what SDS estimate is to some of the committee members?
Sure. The SD is the schematic design estimate. Right now, we've been working with White on that. That's the first of the three major milestones that White will be doing in their design. There'll be the schematic design, then they'll go into design development. That's probably in the 50-60% complete. Design development is. SD is 30-35% complete of the total design for the project. And then after DD is the construction document phase, CDs. That's when you get into the 90-95% complete phase of the project.
Okay. Jim?
So you think we'll have schematic design by September 1st? Is that what you're indicating, Tom? You think that?
That was the last date that we had discussed with White, with the design team.
That is the
well, they're important dates. That's why I'm asking.
Sure.
Have we done a schedule, timelines of meeting these milestones?
Yes.
What are our target dates? I'm just curious. Not that you need to do it right now, but I would like to see it perhaps at our next meeting.
I know. I had some earlier discussions with Dave, and remember, I believe this committee, we got some, like a chart for the sheriff's facility that kind of showed some times and different things. I know Dave was doing the same thing for the courthouse, so I think just working with you guys, that's still being implemented.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
A schedule?
Right.
Well, actually, we're looking at the schedule.
Yeah.
September 1st being the first real milestone, then that we'd have schematic design. Because I do think not that we've never really indicated a time frame, I'll say loosely, saying, oh, we think it'll be 2017, 2018 start or whatever. I do think now is the time to start really establishing a solid schedule.
If I may, I would just like to state that the key decision that this committee made during the last meeting with the announcement and the establishing of the total project cost amount has gone a long way to streamline the pre-design and the design process. And given that everyone is on the same page now with respect to those dollars, I think we can put together a schedule and the costing information that this committee is most interested in seeing, and it'll be forthcoming. The deadline for schematic design is currently right around the end of the month, end of August, that is. There is a meeting at the end of this month on the 28th that White is hosting. So there'll be additional detailed information on the 28th with respect to the design. So that's a little more than a week from now. And so when we get back together on the 2nd, hope to have more details for you, and we'd be happy to you know, give you any kind of reporting format that you're looking for.
Dave, I know, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
Oh, no, I just wanted to make sure that we had a moment for
Oh, absolutely.
Tim to talk about where he is with the OPR and basis of design and stuff like that. So.
We talked about weekly meetings, and, you know, do you know, and I know that I attended one meeting with some of the stakeholders, you know, some of the judges, state's attorney, public defender, clerk. You know, if we have any more of those meetings, I know you have, you know, the one here. I would like this committee to be emailed if anyone would like to attend. Just so if, you know, some of the community members want to meet some of those people, or they want to, you know, some of those stakeholders want to have some discussions with our committee, I think that would be a nice opportunity. Jim?
The other thing I'll mention, since Mary hasn't mentioned it yet, just remember, you have to be mindful of the Open Meetings Act. So it's not like,
Right.
you know,
Well, there are
everybody in the
open
committee can
meetings.
show up.
We just have to post it then.
If this has to be posted, yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that if you just show up, I guess I should ask the question, if 4 of us just showed up,
You'd have an open meetings issue.
then we'd have no meeting. So I'm just saying to the
Okay.
committee, you know, if you're going to attend the meeting, you probably should let the office know so they can coordinate that there's not too many of us there at one time. So we're not in violation.
So if you guys schedule a meeting today, if you could allow enough time for the committee members to report to the office, and then allow for time to post if we don't have to post and only one of us are attending, if that makes sense.
Sure.
But I still would like, you know, the committee members to be able to attend some of those. And then let us know when you guys start doing weekly meetings, but I'm probably more ahead on that with the sheriff than sheriff's facility and the courthouse. So.
You'll see more of a structured approach occur as we get into and beyond the schematic design phase and into design development.
Okay.
We're relying on Bill Payne to make sure that their leadership in terms of both the schedule milestones and the costing information and any other detailed information that this committee wants to see is presented in the way that you want to see it, and presented in a timely way. So that's a good point about the meeting notices.
Okay.
But you know, we'll have standard meetings. We have standing calls right now, but certainly if I can publish that and make sure that this committee has it, and that if there's any kind of interest in attending any of the meetings or getting on even on the calls, that's an option as well.
All right, you're on board.
Okay, so Farnsworth's providing the commissioning commissioning services for the project. And so we've been engaged here. Of course, the design team's in schematic design, and we have a standing weekly meeting with Farnsworth and Gilbane and Dave and White, where we get together weekly and talk about progress and needs and interaction with the players, and it's really been going great. It's great to have all these entities on board at this point in time to drive the project forward, and it's really working well. Commissioning's heavily loaded into construction, but we do have design phase services. We're fully engaged in pretty much all of our design phase activities, which really consist of initially developing our commissioning plan, which says what we're doing and when we're doing it, and that allows us to dovetail with the rest of the team. The owner's project requirement document, which is a document that allows us to lay out the success criteria and some of the design criteria that will lead to this project being successful for the county, is in draft stage right now. We're looking to sit down with Dave and kind of go through that draft and kind of get the draft to a final draft stage, and then it'll probably get vetted further to the direction from the county to the design team and to the rest of the team here on what we need to accomplish for success.
When do you estimate that being finished?
Within a week or two, probably. I think within the next week we should have a final draft, and then that can go to this committee or whoever the next step is for final approval.
If I may just interject, the meat and potatoes of the OPR, owner's project requirements, really falls within the realm of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection systems, but it also does include it can include a lot of other building systems. And so the architect, in this case, White Company, has issued a document very recently that is called the basis of design. That basis of design is looked at and reviewed by not only
answer questions and relieve any concerns that any subcontractors or bidders might have about how they interact with us.
Jim?
As a commissioning agent, and I guess you would also weigh in on this, as a CM, and as well as the design, I guess would be collaborative, really simple. You know, you can use this quality action. You know, do you get the I'm dating myself here, but do you get the Yugo system, or do you get the Mercedes system? And do you make a determination what is the best value in mechanical systems or those type of systems? Because I know we wouldn't necessarily be looking for the least expensive, and then again you have to look and see how much value is in the most expensive, most efficient system. You know, what system's proven, which one isn't, which is new. So do you weigh in on that at this design stage at all?
Yeah, I think we'll be looking at it with White. What's the appropriate system for the MEP, the total mechanical, electrical, plumbing design? What's the most appropriate system for the mechanical, electrical, the plumbing design is functioning and working properly as designed. You know, and that's what Farnsworth is going to come in with the contractors, the commissioning plan, which is great to have up front, because we could be looking at that. That's something, you know, we develop as the design goes on. You know, we'll be able to wing in on that, and then it's something will be in the front end documents when we go out to bid, and it's, you know, it's been there since day one.
You've raised a great point, and really the key factors that go into these things aren't just the first cost, like you said, Jim. First cost is clearly, but really, the first cost is the least amount of cost that you're really going to incur in a facility like this. And so operation and maintenance costs, looking at the first cost, because that's only part of the equation. Really, we want to look at the life of the building. And so we'll be working with the design team to really look at those things. Some of the sustainable criteria and some of the criteria that we'll be putting into the OBR with those expectations, and then offer up, hey, here's option 1, option 2, option 3 for how we could put systems together to serve these buildings. And these are the
It's down and the operation costs down, but at the same time, have a quality building and, you know, have the technology and have the right things in there that's going to last a lot longer than our previous courthouse. So again,
and meet
common
that
sense,
budget
but
that Tom mentioned at the beginning, so, yeah, that's the challenge for the team.
Great.
Yeah, I got two things. Thank you. First of all, I think it's very key what you just said, most appropriate, because I'm not looking for the least efficient or the most expensive. And I think when you weigh it out, there are going to be systems out there that are going to be more efficient, more money, but will never recover from a financial cost, or it's going to be the other way. So I think most appropriate was really the key of what you were talking about. But as far as the OPR goes, what is the process for the OPR? Does it come back here then, or does it go to Dave's office? Where does the OPR go? And if it does not come back to the committee, it does come back here?
I believe, I thought I asked that, and it.
That's
it
what we
came
had
back
talked
here.
about, was that ultimately, this
committee.
oversight committee is really the next step, then beyond that.
I just want to make sure I
That's
see a
right.
copy of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Do you guys have anything further? Thank you. Keep up the good work.
I would just say, I think we put a great team together here. So, I think we have a great team, so I have a lot of confidence in everyone. I'm going to talk about budgets, but I'll wait to get to the sheriff's facility first.
Okay, going into new business, discussion regarding the oversight process of move information to capital. I think we've already kind of covered this in each one of the old business. We're gonna have 2 meetings. We've already been having them. And I guess that's gonna go on, and then, any weekly meetings, I want everyone to attend if there's any outside meetings. So, if you guys have any other ideas how much more we can be involved or less involved, or please just let anyone know we can put it on the agenda. But I think we've kind of established that if everyone's comfortable. And then going towards just establishing a regular second meeting date. I know we're early on this, trying to just find dates that were available. If everyone, look at everyone's schedule. I don't know if we want to look at the 3rd Tuesday, or I don't know, what do you guys have in mind on that? I know we've been kind of discussing this, but I'd like to keep it pretty consistent.
And you have to have time in between the meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you're saying second and third Tuesday,
Second.
or first and third Tuesday?
First and third.
So the 1st and 3rd, or go ahead, George. Tuesdays.
I don't have anything else to do, so.
I can find some stuff for you.
My yard needs mowing.
So does mine.
Does the 3rd Tuesday look good for everybody? 9:30? At that day and time. I don't need a motion or anything for that, we're just having another meeting day, right? Okay. Number 3, guaranteed maximum price amendment to the Leopardo contract.
Press picks them up. I think they paint sometimes a distorted view. Sometimes I think intentionally, sometimes I think unintentionally. When we started out with the sheriff's facility, just as we started out with the courthouse, we said, well, we'd like the and I said it, we'd like $160 million budget on the courthouse. That's a number you throw out, kind of a hope number, because you haven't done any of the programming yet. You haven't seen exactly what can you get for that money. In the case of the courthouse, we couldn't accomplish with that kind of budget what we're looking to accomplish, and that is a courthouse that will be meet future needs. And so we wind up with $195 million as a target, because that's what's going to meet our needs. So on the I think primarily in the executive's office, their hope was, and they stated, well, we think we can do a sheriff's facility for $15 million. Of course, if you recall, I said to them, well, you should probably be looking more at a $25 million budget, because I think that's what's going to take to meet the total need of the sheriff's facility going forward, sheriff's department going forward. So, but anyway, people pick up on this $15 million. I go, well, we're going to do this for $15 million. Well, you're going to see something that's considerably more than 15 million. But understand that as we've gone through the programming, and as we looked at the real need, and as we've added a fairly large dispatch component to the facility, you know, it's not that you can't build something for 15 million, but you can't meet the sheriff's future needs for 15 million. So we shouldn't get so tied up about some of these early discussions of money that was thrown out. So, so I think what we're going to hear is considerably more. But remember, we've added different components to this. It's not the project you talked about at 15 million. So, and people who, like I say, I think people thought, so when people do distort it, then they said, well, you went from 15 million to 30 million. Well, it's not the same project, it was just a number. So I think we should all just keep that in mind as we listen to some of these presentations, just like we had to make the decision on the budget for the courthouse, if you were really going to meet the future needs of the judicial system. So that's why.
Projects, the scope has changed and different, things have occurred, whether it was, the 911 legislation and see the need in talking about prior discussions at this point. So I just want us to move forward as a committee and get these projects done. Guaranteed maximum price amendment to the Leopardo contract. Dave, do you want to come up and talk about this for a minute?
I do.
Okay.
And actually, one of the principals, Mike Bing from Leopardo, was on his way back. He thought that the group, because I actually wanted him to give this presentation. It's his
Naming of the Laraway project. We keep talking about the Laraway's the road, but what was the project we're dealing with? It's a sheriff's facility, we've called it, but it's more than the sheriff's facility. We have a dispatch center, a menial thing, but I think it's important, again, when we're discussing it, and I guess going to the Jim side, when the press or the media are discussing it, we want to make sure our constituents and people know what we're talking about, what we're dealing with. So, any suggestions, Jim?
I was just going to concur with you. When you look at the components of what's in the building, you have law enforcement, you have the ESD board there, you have dispatch there. So there should be something else on there, like the sheriff's name in there, law enforcement / public safety. I'm just, there's something that tells me there should be something that also deals with the sheriff's department. I don't know if you can front the name of, backlog the name, I'm just.
Well, and I was going to ask, I know the sheriff's not here, Bob's here, but, input on, this is part of your building too, so I'm not trying to, just throwing it out there.
Are you naming the project, or are you going to name the building with
the
sign?
project?
Oh,
just as.
Well, I think it kind of names the building too, though, Bob.
What? How we refer to it? Yeah.
How we refer to it, I think also does kind of name the building.
We can name
So,
it the
yeah,
Tom
yes,
Buddy Buddy Law Enforcement Center or something like that.
Well, I love that. Tom Buddy Law Enforcement.
In that case, it's in my district called the Brooks Project.
I'm not naming that.
Oh,
I just wanted to focus more on.
That's a disrespect to Miss Winfrey.
Sorry about that. I'm glad you're still there.
Okay. Hold on.
I just wanted to make the committee aware, I think most people know this, that the dispatch center has already begun, and they've officially named their dispatch center the Laraway.
The campus kind of thing, so.
I mean,
You can name the campus, you can name the campus.
Building or naming this, it's just, just focusing more on the project, so we can, that's that.
We can just name public safety. Brooks.
Denise?
I just encourage us to keep Laraway somewhere in the title, only because just down the over there, Laraway Crossings, there's an economic change piece for that area, so it kind of ties those together, so we kind of put that area forward as Laraway generally, and then that's moved to the development area.
All right, we got some ideas. We'll bring this back. You guys think about it, and
I'm gonna refer to it as public safety.
I don't think we have a quite consensus on it, so we'll come back. We'll put some names in a hat. We'll pull it out. How about that? Or actually, before the next meeting, if everyone wants to give Lana what you think, it should be called, and then we'll have it decided at the next meeting. How about that? We'll go back to number 3, the guaranteed maximum price amendment. I think if you're ready.
Thought you were gonna sneak out, did you?
Go ahead.
If I may, he is one of the principals with Leopardo Group, and asked him to attend to walk us through what will ultimately be the GMP presentation on the 2nd at your next meeting. But what you have as an attachment today to your agenda is the format that's going to be used. And I just wanted Mike to be here today to discuss that and provide an overview and to ask any questions or answer any questions that any of the board members might have. So.
And I think that's the most important part, is that you do, I understand you do all have the document here. It's a simple format. It's a format we use for all of our projects. Every single project that we bid, that we do as a construction manager at risk, or however we put numbers together, it's really filling out our bid format. So you're getting the same thing that we use at Leopardo every day. You can see that there's a number of line items here that make up the total guaranteed maximum price. I think the most significant thing is the bottom line is what the guaranteed maximum price is. That there's one confusion some people sometimes make if they're not familiar with doing new projects, is they look at each line item, and there will be ups and downs in the line items as they come in. It's not a line item guarantee, it's a total guarantee of the total project, because you will see some as we come over, they'll be under, some will be over, but the bottom line is we collectively feel that this is a good number for this project, and that's where the guarantee comes from. And it's based on what we know at the time from the documentation that we have all worked on together and from the schedule that we've all established together. So really, I think the best thing to do is to open it up for you for any questions you have from this document, because the format is pretty straightforward. This is what you will get on August 2nd, I believe, right, Dave, is the meeting. And then these line items will all be filled in with numbers, and there'll be a bottom line number at the end.
Any questions? Jackie?
I'm not on the committee, but I was reading the section about exclusions, and one thing that came to mind to me right away from my prior days on the committee, I understand there's a shooting range out there with a lot of pollution, and I'm wondering if this project is touching on that area, and if that is going to be excluded.
No, that, from the outset, that
we're leaving that alone.
That was not included. We were focusing on the administration part. I mean, it's definitely something that we obviously need to keep looking at, as well as any other buildings and property of ours. But we're mainly focused on the administration part. Dave, I'll let you.
That will, the shooting range is not included within the site fencing, so it'll be completely outside of the project limits.
And Bob, I was actually just out there. Didn't they make some changes or improvements out there? I mean, I wouldn't say going towards what Jackie's saying in regards to some pollution or whatever, but just some structural, you guys did some structural changes out there recently?
They reinforced the berm out there.
So it was more of a safety.
And we're not doing anything with that building that they use as a place to like set up their guns, clean their guns?
No, not right now.
Because I know that was in pretty poor shape. We're not connecting that to the sewer.
I don't know if there's no bathroom facilities even out
I don't
there.
think
there's not.
Well,
there wasn't? I thought
no.
there
Training building.
Okay, maybe not. I don't know, it was a long time ago. I'm just Yeah.
I think, Jackie, you're referring to the training building.
Oh, the
There's
training
a-
building.
There's a building that's where the shooting range is actually, but the training building's going away, right? The actual building?
No, we're
That
keeping.
Building and the range building are both staying?
Yes.
For right now.
For now.
For now, but, so there's the, it's almost an inside, outside for the, it's attached to the shooting range, and then there's an enclosed structure where the ammunition and the cleaning is, no bathroom facilities in that part. Then there's the training facility directly behind, and that's gonna stay there, but in the new facility, on the second floor, there is, plans for a new training facility, correct?
That's correct.
Jim?
Yeah, the recollection, talking about environmental issues in regard to the shooting range. There's really not an environmental issue unless we touch it.
Right.
Start moving.
That's why I asked.
So that's, I think that's why we partly made the decision, just leave it as it is.
Mhm.
We'll make improvements around it, because it is much more of an environmental issue if we start messing with it. So, that's my recommendation.
If I may, that's exactly true. And the only thing that will happen with the shooting range building and the existing training building, there'll be some low voltage wiring done for the sheriff to hook up security cameras and that sort of thing, so that the new building is connected to the overall security system. And other than that, just wanted to mention that every building that has a toileting facility on that campus, whether it's highway or the sheriff, we're already online. There is no septic field action, no well action going on out there, so everything is online with City of
I
Joliet Sewer.
wasn't sure if that was completed yet. Thank you.
Jim?
Mike, if I may, you will fill in the blanks here, and you'll give us some real numbers, and I think we have an anticipation about what that might be. But one of the areas that does interest me, and it becomes more of an issue when we're doing these guaranteed pricing, and that is the size of the contingency, and what is a normal contingency for this type of project. And I could throw out numbers, you hear various ones. Well, 5% is a good contingency number, and of course, everybody likes to hedge a little bit, and so you might say, well, we want to see a 7 or 8% contingency if we're going to guarantee the price. So how do you approach the contingency portion of the budget, and to make sure that it's really a reasonable one? It's not low, but it's not too higher than it needs to be either.
Well, in this case, Jim, it's actually really easy because it was negotiated several months ago with the county. It's in our contract. So it's not a variable number, and the contingency that was negotiated for this specific job, knowing that we're giving a guaranteed maximum price at the end of design development, which is early compared to a lot of projects. Most projects are really guaranteed somewhere in the early phases of construction documents, 50% or more. So the original RFP went out with a guaranteed max at the end of design development, so it was negotiated with the county of a 7% contingency across the board. And that contingency also, while it is a construction manager's contingency, the contract with you also is very specific of what it can and cannot be used for.
And it's also very specific about remaining balances in that contingency line item, and what happens to any unused portion of it. So 75% of that goes back to the county, 25% of it goes to the contract. It's called shared savings, and very typical arrangement, contractual arrangement in this sort of project.
And it is I believe it's an incentive. So there is an incentive there.
Oh, there was an incentive in it, and also the one thing that what we like to do is because I've been working with public sector and the public sector for a long time, and we understand that, we understand where you want to spend your money. And while there is a contingency held, there are also milestones in any project. When you get out of ground, it's a milestone because you never really know what's underneath the surface. And so that's a big milestone. You say, wow, that's a relief. You get structural steel or precast up, you get your superstructure up in place. It's another milestone. If you go through the couple of milestones and you're not spending much of your contingency, then we work with the county and say, we can start releasing some of that. Do you want to buy anything else? And so it's working hand in hand with you. A lot of communities, especially on the municipal level, if they have a budget of $30 million, they want to spend $29,999 because they don't get a chance to do it again. So we'll work very closely with all of you to say, hey, we think we're doing really well here. Maybe we can release some of that. Is there any other things that you don't have in this job that you want to do, or do you take that money and put it towards another budget?
Exactly, or we save it and go under budget.
Exactly. It's up to you. But the idea is it's all based on communication, so that you never want, one of the things a lot of public entities don't want to do is find out that at the end of the job they have $2 million extra when they didn't know it. And so it's always keeping you posted of what's going on.
And we have changed projects based on, we had good cost estimate going in. We're able to enhance parts of that.
Floor preparation, moisture mitigation.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about why you would need 300,000. I mean, I'm assuming drain tiles going in,
No, it has nothing to do with that. Actually, what it has to do with the big movement that we've seen over the years of sustainable design, sustainable construction, sustainable projects, and products. And years ago, just like when you see, paint has changed a lot, so have adhesives have changed a lot. And a lot of newer sustainable adhesives cannot handle the moisture content in the concrete. And we're finding over and over and over that the way we used to do business 15 years ago, you just can't. And you have to almost mitigate moisture in every single project.
I've seen some of those flooring packages, like for homes, I don't know if it's Pink Panther or who does it, where they put down the little squares of wood or a plastic product over the concrete, if you're gonna finish your basement and you put your carpet in. Do you do stuff like that, or are you talking about like ceilings?
It's usually, with the commercial grade products, it's a little bit more sophisticated. It's really more of an encapsulant. It really is something that, because concrete holds on to moisture for so long, and it should, you want it to, because how it cures, it's a chemical cure. It's not drying, it's curing. With that, you actually need to lock the moisture in the concrete so you can put the surfaces on, and that, unfortunately, is a very expensive process of what you have to do. So we advise our clients all the time, until the industry can find something else to address the changes that have happened with sustainability, that it's a cost of flooring now.
So when you say encapsulate, you're talking about sealing
You
it,
do
coating
put
it
you put a
with
sealant.
a chemical
Yeah,
of some sort, or a polyurethane, or plastic.
It's mostly a specific epoxy type of rock.
Epoxy, yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
Any other questions? I think we don't need a motion on this.
This is just going to go to your next meeting.
Go to the next meeting. Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Madam Chair, can you
Yes.
just stay at the table for the next agenda item? Because
I'd like to see you get out. Wellness program.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go into labor management,
Yes.
labor agreement.
Yes. Number 5, execution of the management labor agreement for the Will County projects.
I'm glad this item appeared on the agenda, and it was as a follow-up to what was passed recently by the full Will County Board. And I asked Leopardo then to execute the document as approved by the board. And there's one exception to that I want to make sure that I call to this board's attention, or to this committee's attention, that may not have been apparent when it was initially reviewed, but it is a key factor currently, and that factor has to do with
that factor has to do with the requirement within the agreement that all of the materials or all of the assemblies that may be manufactured off-site, i.e. millwork, ductwork.
Materials.
Right, anything, within something that might be pre-assembled. Millwork is a very good example. Ductwork is a very good example because that usually is done in a shop and brought to the job and installed. And so that agreement calls for those and all of the materials to be fabricated and done so by union labor in a union shop. And there is very little control, we believe, that can be exercised to be sure that is occurring. And one of them, and as a result, Leopardo has an issue with signing that agreement in its current form. And so I wanted to make sure that this was fully discussed today, this meeting.
Jim?
There we go, okay. Yeah, I'm aware of that's in that agreement. And it is an issue for our trade unions and our union in general. And if Don Moran were here, he'd be jumping up out of his seat.
First person.
Because, when it comes to fabrication, I do think there is some control. I don't think it's 100%. But look, when you send, and I think this is when the contracts are let, I think we have to make it clear. I do think it's an issue that we should make more than an attempt, that we should try to really accomplish the spirit of that agreement. And Mike, for example, well, first off, let's say the prevailing wage, I think applies across the board. And for example, I'll use Don Moran's examples that he likes to use all the time. There's been projects in Will County where there's been a considerable amount of fabrication for metal. The food service, but there can be a lot of course, there is this. I'm not too concerned about regular duct work because I do think that most of that's easy enough to accomplish. So then it's sent to an Indiana company, or it's sent to a company down in Kentucky, and where they're paying much less of a wage, which really makes it impossible then for our local folks to do that fabrication. Yeah, I understand that it could be difficult to always guarantee or comply with that. I do think we can work with our local business labor, contractor labor association here, since both are represented, so to speak, to really try to accomplish what the spirit of that agreement is. And if there's an area that we cannot do that, then I think we tell them, well, we don't think we're going to be able to necessarily guarantee this portion. Common duct work, I think that's easy enough. There's plenty of sheet metal shops. You could probably do fabrication.
Actually, that's one of the areas you can't get. There's only 2 shops in the area that are union shops.
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I would have thought there would have been more.
Most of them are. Most of the HVAC guys go out of state for fabrication. And actually, one of the things when we had a mini strike for a little period of time on July 1st was dealing with that was the issue.
Yeah.
I want to clarify one thing, as Dave mentioned. We're a union contractor, and we self-perform, and we are a signatory to many unions. And so this is really, it's not that Leopardo was objecting to signing this. We wanted to bring it to your attention because we have a labor attorney, and I did ask our labor attorney to look at this, and He recommended an amendment that he says he uses with all PLLs and PLAs in Cook County because of this very issue. The two biggest trades are millwork and sheet metal.
Sheet metal, yeah.
Those are the areas. If you want to enforce a complete 100% union requirement for fabrication, you can do that. Our point is we wanted you to know that you may be eliminating a lot more people than including, and you may be eliminating locals by doing that. It actually may turn against you to enforce that type of policy. So we were recommending an amendment for that fabrication, but we will do whatever you wish to do.
I do think that, you know, certainly we can talk about that agreement with labor, but I'd like us to keep moving it forward. You know, this is to execute the agreement. So basically, not only so you can execute it, I don't know if there needs to be an execution on the county or an executive's office usually does.
There does.
So this is for us to move it forward so the county executive can execute the agreement. And if that agreement is, you know, negotiated or you have discussions, but I do think we should keep moving it, at least give the authority to the county executive to execute it. And when things, and then you can come back and give us, you know, if there's a slight change or an amendment, just, you know, that's worked out, then inform us. But I don't want to hold up giving the county executive the authority to move this, to execute it, which we did not do, I don't believe, at the county board meeting. When we passed the business labor, we didn't include to give the county executive the authority to execute. So I guess we're doing this more to get the county executive the ability to execute. You know, if there, and I can see where this could be an issue, especially if you know, we could have shops that tell you, yeah, we can get it for you 8 months from now. I mean, there's a lot of issues that come into play, and why you know, we may have to use other fabricators.
Well, the other thing we want to bring up now too, and Dave did ask me to bring a signed version of it today, and actually you have to execute it before we can execute it. I think it's the way it should go, but we also do want to include this in the bidding documents to all our subs, and since we are out on the streets right now, we have told them in the bidding documents there is a project labor agreement that's part of it, but we haven't given them a copy of that agreement, which we need to do during this phase. So I think that's the other important part of the timing.
I think you can give it to them. Because this number one bid package, you don't see any real issues. Do you see any issues with the steel?
I don't see any issues, but I think that it should be an executed agreement before we put it in the bid package. That's all I'm suggesting.
All right. Well, you know, it's today, Tuesday. Time is it? I was going to say is, you know, we're going to put it on this county board meeting, but now we're too late. By what, 10 minutes?
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half? Oh, that's why we started at 9:30. We don't execute it until 11. I'm only asking, you know.
Never heard that.
Yes.
I was talking with Bruce yesterday about this very issue, and we discussed it briefly. And so, what do you want to do about it? And he suggested that we take the amendment that Leopardo has proposed and share that with Three Rivers, and to see if Mr. White is amenable to revising it. And that was his advice yesterday, so it is an option.
Well, how about do you see a problem with the county executive executing the agreement?
No. The resolution did authorize the executive to execute.
Oh, okay, all right.
So,
Well, if there's an agreement on the amendment, I don't once they see the issue, take it on, down right at night.
I know we keep saying the executive. Nick, did you have a comment? I
No.
saw you talking.
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, I like to give the county executive the ability to
Yeah.
execute it.
Hold on, Denise.
Yeah, and I have no problem with that either, with them executing it, but I like the idea of including Three Rivers and the Will County Trace, just to have the discussion beforehand, because I think that mitigates any ill feelings and gets people on the right page, and that'll be helpful going forward. Obviously, I want to see Will County shops as much as possible, and I know that some of the fab shops, some of the mill shops here may not support the agreement in terms of getting us the best deal, but as much as possible, I want to do that. But I want them on board on the front end, not the back end.
I completely agree. And then, you know, just as your attorney has, you know, had concerns and reviewed, I, you know, want our attorneys to do the same and, you know, talk to the trades on that. So, Jim?
Well, let me ask this then. Can we execute the current agreement since it doesn't seem to impact the first bid package? If those bids are, if those are out there, it is really kind of a timing, and then come back and amend the agreement later. No.
I have not, I've been involved with a number of PLAs, and once you sign it, I think that anybody would be reticent to negotiate an amendment to it after it's signed.
Yeah.
But we can, I just mentioned to Dave, if you need time to do this, I have done this before. While I just said it'd be nice to include it in the bid package, we can include it as an unsigned agreement saying this is the agreement that the county is considering right now. So it gives heads up to the people that are bidding right now of what is going on. And the worst, that is the worst case, and it really, then that really doesn't affect these first trades.
That's what I'm, okay. So that's
Yeah.
Hearing that
Yeah.
makes me much more comfortable, because I want to heed the warning as someone that works in the field that this might not serve our desired intent completely as it is. And I know that you understand, we want union labor, we want local labor, but we also don't want to get ourselves in some super restrictive. So I like that approach a lot. I don't know about the other committee members.
I agree.
I like that approach. You just tell this is the intended. That works for you then?
That works for us because
Until we can.
we cannot, I think it's very important that we would not execute a contract with those subs until we knew what that agreement was. But this buys a little bit of time to have the discussion up front. I think that is very important because you don't want to go in with bad feelings, and there's no bad feelings here. We're not talking about it because someone's trying to change something. It's we just want to make it very, you know, so everybody understands, because if there are only a couple of shops that can do some fabrication, your costs may go up. That may be detrimental to you, whether you agree or disagree. That's the reality of it, so you just need to know.
Right, and I mean, we don't, our intention is not to set up anyone for failure on these projects. You know, we want to execute an agreement that is lawful, that everyone is mindful of, so I think this is the appropriate measure to take. Jim?
Yeah, the only thing I might mention, we need time because we couldn't take action until the August County Board meeting. So we would need a recommendation coming back. If it's going to be amended, have discussion with, so you probably need to leave this on your agenda. But it would take us at least to August to actually make that, just so you know, Mike, that would be the timeline. That's the best we can do.
I think we can work with that, right, Dave, with what our schedule is. I don't see a problem with that, and I think this is the right way to approach it. I think rushing into something, let's just take a few days more and think about what we need to do, and everybody has the facts, then you know going in with your eyes open what decisions you made. I think we can work with that.
Okay.
So, if I may, with the committee's direction is that we would share the amendment to the agreement with both the Will County State's Attorney for review on behalf of the county and to the Three Rivers Alliance.
And the Will County Building Trades.
And the Will County Building Trades.
Yes, that was what I was.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I don't have any.
I think the executive's office, along with Leopardo, can have those discussions.
And bring it back.
I don't see where discussion here.
At the next capital improvement meeting, it won't have any effect on our ability to add it to the agenda.
Correct.
Correct.
So that.
Any other new business? I don't have any. Any public comment? Public comment? Anyone for public comment? I don't have a chairman's report, but there is a need for executive session, continued discussion on property acquisition.
We're going to executive session for purpose of property acquisition discussion.
Second.
Or roll call.
Fritz? Yes. Eustace?
Yeah.
Rice? Jumanello? Winfrey? And Friday?
Yes.
Our executive session.
Quiet as a church.
Just